Unemployment in 2025 is still relatively low. That means that this is a perfect time to look for a job. Rainbows to riches.
Welcome back to Rainbows to Riches, guys. My name is Rayleigh, and until recently, I had absolutely no financial guidance until I met Drew and Michael, and they became not only my financial mentors and life mentors overall, right, guys?
I think so.
But my great friends. And when they started to coach me, I was like, why not create a podcast and spread this idea out there and create a community to safely talk about personal finance?
Okay. I'm Drew. I've run 3 different businesses over the course of many years in 3 different countries. I have also bought, sold, and rented out quite a bit of residential and commercial real estate.
I'm Michael. I'm Drew's husband. We've been together about 25 years. And when I met him, I had just come through bankruptcy. And with his guidance and support, I was able to save enough money to buy my first house, which we live in, and open a business. And now I'm looking towards retirement.
So today's episode is about jobs and talking overall about how to find your career path and how to take the right decisions to shape your professional life. We'll be delivering stories from the past, how they became and developed their professional life. I feel like confusion, guys. Like in terms of jobs, I feel like we feel very confused sometimes when, coming up with the right path. What do I want to do? Do I want to make my hobby my profession? So what do you think?
A lot of people are confused about what their next step is, whether it's their first job or they want to move on from the job that they have. You can kind of break it down, or at least come up with the steps to follow to begin the process. You first have to decide, if you can, what industry or what area you're interested in. You can find out online. You can look around. There's a million ways to find out. Or you know for years and you've known this is what you want to get into. That's the first step. You then need to decide if you're looking for remote work or on-site work or maybe partially remote work. If you want part-time or full-time or flexible time, depending upon your situation. And you have to research the different fields that are available within the areas that you're interested in. And lastly, you might want to consider paid internships if you're not really sure, so you can be somewhere for some period of time, short period of time, 3 to 6 months, before you make a more final decision.
I had a paid internship throughout college, throughout the 4 years of college, and it was great, very amazing. And there are a lot of options today to start applying. There's several apps. There are several different steps out there, especially on the internet, what you should do first and how you should carry yourself. I would say, Michael, for you as an entrepreneur and having your salon, you have to hire people. You've commented during our friends' dinners or at your house, you commented that you were hiring somebody. How is your process? If somebody on the other side of that camera is looking for a job in the beauty industry, like what does entrepreneurial side of Michael look for when looking for a candidate?
Well, there's a couple of ways that I go about finding a candidate. Right now, I have done postings at the hairdressing schools. I had done posts on Indeed. I've been looking at LinkedIn. There used to be something that I used successfully, but not anymore, which was Craigslist. So I really have to keep looking around and, of course, talking to people I know to see if anyone knows anything. The most important thing is if you are looking to get hired in a hair salon, you want to be able to write a resume. And the resume just simply needs to tell me that you have an education, whether you have a degree, whether you have other job experiences that may not necessarily be in a hair salon, but related, retail, etc., and transportation, very important part of it. But it's also really important to be positive in your expression. Like if I get to interview someone, I want to hear something that makes me want to work with them, want to spend more time with them. I don't want to hear negativity about all their other jobs and all the people they don't like. And I want people to be able to point out what they think they did well and what they don't do well, so that this is a strength and this is something I want to work on. Nobody's perfect and nobody's terrible. I've interviewed people who don't interview well, but I saw something in them and they ended up becoming a great employee. I've interviewed people who were phenomenal who turned out to be either just didn't show up, which has happened many times, or turned out to be complete liars and were not able to do any of the things they promised.
Honesty. So
Honesty is a fact. Yeah.
Values.
But don't overshare. I don't want to hear it.
And don't exaggerate.
Right.
And don't exaggerate your skills.
And the other thing I always tell the story, I interviewed a woman who was probably in her 40s at the time, and she was texting while I was interviewing her.
Oh, wow.
Not something you want to do. You do not text while you're being
on.
interviewed. It was crazy.
Richie's would never do that. Never, ever do that. And I like the transportation part that
Yeah.
that he mentioned.
Yeah, I had an employee recently. She's a great employee, but she didn't think through how difficult it was going to be for her to get to work. So it was buses, and she missed her bus at one point, and the bus line got it, and it was just too much work. So she had to stop working for me. And I really am sorry because I really wanted her to work out.
Yep, it's something that we should definitely consider while looking for a job. I take an hour to get to my job. It's a nice route to New York, only 2 subways, but something y'all should keep in mind.
Yeah, just
because
consider it, because
if you like to get ready, you do have to start like 4 hours before, 3 hours.
If you live outside a city like New York, if you live other places, you might have a car and drive 10 minutes and it's not an issue. But in and around big cities usually is a different sort of situation. I also wanted to say that we will discuss resumes and interviewing techniques specifically in different episodes to give you a little more detail, but you can find resume preparation online as well as interviewing techniques. So if you're in that position of looking for something now before we do our episodes, please take a look.
One of the things that we're hoping is that when people watch this episode, they want to tell us about some of their experiences, because we all have stories about jobs and job interviews, and it will help us to streamline our content, and also maybe some of the stories can make it onto the show.
Period. What's the next most important component of developing this professional personality and, professional energy?
Well, the next, and probably the first as opposed to the next, is networking.
Yeah.
Nothing is as important as networking, which means telling everybody you know that you're looking for a job, and specifically what kind of job you're looking for, if that's the case. You never know who you're going to tell that knows somebody. You can tell somebody in the gym who you're working out with about a certain type of business that you're interested, you'd love to get involved, you're looking for a job, and that guy or girl says, I have an uncle who has that kind of, you'd never know.
Never know.
And also the other side of networking is asking people whether they know anybody, whether they like their job, if their company is hiring. I just recently was talking to a woman who got into talking about hair, and I said, where do you get your hair cut? And she goes, oh, she works in this little private booth stuff. She didn't like working with people before, so she's on her own now. And I thought, I want to talk to her because I have a salon and I know my reputation, and the salon atmosphere is very good. So there's a question of networking by asking as opposed to telling.
Period. In fact, this podcast, this beautiful brand that we are building together, came through networking, because long story short, I was at the gym. Drew and I happened to go to the same gym. And he approached me. I had braids at the time, and always thinking of your husband. You were like, let me take a picture of your braids and send it to my husband, who's a hairstylist. And that's how this beautiful project and community that we are building to safely talk about finance, queer money.
And not only did we begin this podcast, but when I asked her, Lisa, what do you do? She said, I do social media. And we hired her in my company to do a program of social media specifically for us. And she did a great job, all because We talked.
Networking. I think that we've covered networking,
Yep.
right?
Now we're done. Let's go.
Next, I would say that career advice is great, but nothing connects us more than real stories. So I want to know from you guys the nitty gritty and the real stuff that you actually went through. And, how was, the development of this professional side of you happened? For example, Michael, I know that you had your reasons to quickly start your professional life and go to college. Can you?
Well, one of the
tell us
things
about
I think I share with a lot of people here is I didn't get family support growing up. So therefore, being gay in my household was not acceptable. So I needed to get out. I went to college because it was an easy way to get away from my mother. And when I went to college, I had a career of being an actor in mind, but realized that wasn't going to work very well. So I ended up quitting college and taking a job working as a waiter. The waiter job was a temporary thing until I decided to go to hairdressing school. And the reason I chose hairdressing school was because there were only certain professions, this is 1979, where being an out gay man was going to be safe. So hairdressing, acting, florist, interior designer, fashion designer, all things that I've done and like to do.
Well,
So-
it's a good advice for
Stereotyping,
them,
absolute stereotyping. But I ended up going to hairdressing school and really liking it and knew that I could make a career out of it. But while I was in hairdressing school, I was working as a waiter at night. On weekends, I was doing co-check in a gay restaurant in the city. And on Saturdays, I was shampooing in a salon. So I had 3 jobs plus going to school, hairdressing school.
You gotta
But
work.
the whole point of it was I found something that I loved. I knew I could do it as a profession. And therefore, the goal was within sight, and finished hairdressing school and was able to support myself on just one job. It was great.
One job and you follow your dreams. You made lemonade with your lemons.
Right,
And
exactly.
it's a beautiful story. You see, guys. And how was the beginning of your own business?
Well, opening my business was a process because I had worked for other people, and I decided I wanted to try to open a business, and I did it without any planning and knowledge, and it failed miserably, and I lost everything. I went bankrupt. And then I started working for someone else again, and I started thinking about everything and learned enough to know that it's a process where you need a lot of support. So Drew was very involved in helping me get the business that I currently have started.
I'm almost done with my questions, guys. But you mentioned, it's interesting to me, the part where you mentioned acting. Because I assumed that you were trying to make a hobby a career. And a lot of people, I went through this. Like, what am I going to do? And some things that you think it's your hobby or something that a fun activity you're going to do after your job. How was that process and how did you deal with it?
Well, I was lucky. My father was a professional chef at a time when professional chefs didn't make a lot of money, but he did what he loved. He was always into cooking. And I remember when I was very young, he said to me, when it comes time to picking a career, figure out what you'd love to do and you would do for free, and then figure out a way to make money doing it. So I never chased the money when I was looking for a career. I always thought, what could I do that I would really love doing? And figured if I loved doing it, I'd be good at it, and therefore I'd make money.
But you were you were honest enough with yourself and non-judgmental to accept the fact that acting wasn't for you. You didn't get frustrated because you found your path.
Well, what I learned pretty quickly was acting was a lot more than just standing on a stage and doing things. There was a lot of criticism involved, and I'm not good at being criticized. So that became, shut up. That became a big deciding factor for me. When I would have to go and do an audition piece and I would hear the comments, I was devastated. And I thought, I can't do that. So I learned.
Period. And honesty is everything. Should I go first or do it?
And now it's your turn to tell us your story, your journey so far.
My journey so far. How did I start this complex, kind of unfinished business type of journey? Well, when Ray was in Brazil, my family moved to America and I had to come to America. So basically, I moved to the United States when I was 15-ish, 15, 16. Don't remember exactly, guys. I have to find that information and come back to you. And in terms of my professionality, learning English was my goal, right? How are you not going to communicate with people? Thankfully, I went to a great school in Brazil, and in private school, they start to teach English in fourth grade. So, since first grade. So since first grade, I started to learn English. It took me a year to learn English here. And I think it was after 6 months that I was here, or 7 months, about 7 months, I was like, how can I start making money? Because I was at an age that I wanted to go out. I come from a Christian family, so I couldn't use my mom's money to go out because I was doing things that are not aligned to her faith. You know what I mean? So I was like, how am I going to join the workforce? Rationally, because I am, we always look for safety. I'm not going to find a job where I'm not going to be accepted. So back then I was like, what can I do? Retail, a lot of LGBTQ plus people do retail. It's very welcoming. And I worked for Hollister and for Sephora, a year and a half in both. And I would say that the thing that I learned the most was character development, obviously, your weaknesses, because you do notice that you do stupid shit. You get coached, stupid stuff.
Exactly.
And you get coached and you're like, okay, this is, my weakness, something that I should work on. I found out that my strength was talking to people. So perfect for retail and waiting. Right now I'm doing some waiting. And then I was like, I want to have something for my own. How can I use my college degree to, practice what I learned, create a community, be on social media, but getting money on the side.
You've also always been a worker. I mean, you've driven for Uber in between
Yes.
to supplement. So,
During
you're not
COVID.
just going to sit around and wait for the money to come in. You're a worker.
Period. During COVID, I did Uber because it was booming back then. It was a lot of money. So I was always working on something for me, I always wanted to have a company or something of my own and make cash on the side, things that I can do on my own. So Uber, you can do it on your own. Waiting, you can travel, you have freedom until, I have this settled. So that's how I developed my career. And working for Sephora and other retail and like Hollister was what developed this, talking. I want to talk to people. I want to tell stories. I guess I just did what I really love to do, talk
Good
about
for you.
myself.
Talking, and look what you're doing now.
And he likes to be a mentor. Tell us your story.
That's true. That's true. But my story is different than most. And although I've been extremely lucky in my life, I think that it still can be of great value to younger people beginning their careers to hear the story, despite the fact that luck played a big part in it.
Luck or blessings? Luck or blessings?
Well, I don't know about blessings, but hard work also played a big part in it. When I was I went to NYU graduate school, and I had to work. You couldn't go there. I couldn't pay for that. And I lived with a guy who said, I work at NYU. They have jobs there. Come on, I know my boss. He'll give you a job in a minute. Okay. Went in, met this guy who became a mentor of mine. He said, we need a receptionist. I said, I can recept. I can gladly recept.
I can do whatever.
I can do whatever you need to do.
Typing.
Yeah. And then after a while, he needed a secretary. And I said, okay, I can do that. I can type very well. Not a problem. He and I got along really, really well. He often made suggestions and mentored me without my knowing I was being mentored. And loved the fact that I worked very hard. He used to avoid giving me something to do at the end of the day because he knew I'd stay there until it was finished. Even though he would say to me, go home. 5 o'clock, you can go home. And I'd say, okay, I'll go home in a minute. And he left and I stayed and I finished it. But the next morning it was there and he knew it was there. And he kind of sometimes screamed at me and said, what'd you do that for? There was no reason. But yet he knew that I stayed and I worked hard.
I have a lot to learn from you.
And do you? So well, you work hard. You work very hard. But
I don't stay past my time sometimes. I'm kidding.
But we used to work at NYU with this private organization which did seminars and hired NYU instructors. This boss of mine, said, you're about to graduate and get your master's. You really have to find another job because you'll never make that much money here. And he knew I wanted to make money.
Your major was Spanish literature and you wanted to be a teacher.
I wanted to teach Spanish literature in college. And he said, you know how much a college professor makes? And in those days, it was not very much money. He said, let me talk to these people. And he talked to these 3 owners of the seminar business. And he said, come on, let's go up and meet them. There was no interview. We just sat around. They said, okay, we really need somebody to handle administration. I said, just like I said, I could recept in the reception and I can type. I can administer whatever you need. I didn't know if I could or not, but I sounded like I could. And I was always very organized, so I wasn't really too worried. They offered $10,000 a year. So now I was rich. I was clearly rich.
At that moment,
At that moment, I was this $10,000 in 1969 or 70 or 68, somewhere around there. I was doing beautifully. The first thing I had to do was set up a new office. I had to hire people. That's why they hired me to. They needed
so
additional
you were
people.
managing. You were managing people.
I was managing people, and in the seminar business, you have the seminars that you have to have everything ready for. You have to have hotels arranged for. You have to have a whole bunch of different aspects taken into consideration when you're running a seminar for adults. But the first thing you have to do is hire people, and there was not even an office. They had rented an office for me across the street in a hotel and said, okay, check out furniture. What can you get? So, we need 8 desks and 8 chairs and file cabinets and the like. And I researched it very clearly. And in those days, you didn't research it online, which took 15 minutes. It took a lifetime. And I came back 2 days later with a list of 3 different sections of furniture, for fancy stuff, which I knew they didn't want, really nice wooden furniture, didn't think they'd want, and kind of crappy metal and fiberboard furniture. And I said, okay, here it is. Here's the cost. You tell me what you'd like. And one of them came back with a big circle, a big red circle around the third letter C, the cheapest one, and with a note, can you get this used? Which I just thought was hysterical. But you couldn't. We got the furniture. It came in. There's a reason for this whole story, by the way. It came in during the day, and it was cheap furniture. It came in boxes, unput together, and it was not like IKEA where they give you directions. You just have to find out how to do it, not something I was great at. I started. Dinner time came around, went home for dinner. They came down, it seems, in that period, like 6:30 or something when I went home for dinner, and were very disappointed that I had just left all those boxes all over the floor. But I had come back after dinner with my boyfriend, and the 2 of us until, 2 or 3 in the morning, put everything together, and on papers and pads on the desk with pens. People could come in the next morning and begin working. 9:30 the next morning, they walked in kind of ready to ream me out. Like, you just
off
left.
the clock. You were working off the clock.
You just left, but you left everything. You said you were going to do it, and you left it. How could you do it? They walked in, and there were 3 people already had been hired. They were in, and they had started working. I was at my desk working, and they were flabbergasted. And how'd you do this? And I didn't even know. I didn't even understand why they were so surprised, because I didn't know they had come down. I found that out later, and. Came back. I told him I came back. I wouldn't leave it. I told you I was going to do it. Of course, I did it. The next week, they doubled my salary to $20,000 a year.
And that's what's
You
going to
could
happen.
call it luck, but it was also outperforming the
It was
expectations.
it was a lot of luck, and I don't want to take away from that. But the fact is, it didn't hurt that I worked really, really hard. So much so that after a few years, I had met a woman, got married, went to Brazil to run our own business, and they were devastated. They wanted me back, and I said, "Well, I'm going to open my own business." And the idea of living in Brazil sounded exciting and fun. For 4 years, they tried to get me back. And well, no. It turns out that Brazil, there were a whole bunch of issues with our type of business in Brazil. The government decided they didn't like what we were doing, that money was leaving the country because of what we were doing, and we had to stop doing it. We were looking for other businesses. We moved to Barcelona. We tried to start something there. All the while, they're saying, "When are you coming back?" and upping their offer until finally, like 5 years after I had left or close to it, they said, "How about if we make you a partner? Will you come back if we make you a partner?" That was it was a $15 million business at that point.
That was how much money
Shocked.
was that back then?
That was a lot more than $15 million, but it was not that that was the gross income. That's not what they paid me.
I know.
But or I wouldn't be doing this podcast. But,
Excuse me,
The
sir?
network.
but they wanted me back so badly, they offered me a partnership that I didn't have to buy into, which is very unusual, all because of the luck, but also because I did more than they ever expected me to do. And I think that's the lesson you can learn. Whatever your boss expects you to do a little more. Maybe do a lot more. And you'll be astounded at how much luck you're going to have.
And one of the things that I'm sure you can acknowledge happens later, when you're working for someone else, doing a little bit more seems like such a great thing. When you work for yourself, doing a lot more is still not enough.
still not-
I mean, people
Very
think,
true.
"Oh, you're so great. You've got your own business." I'm like, you have no idea how many things I can't get done. I just can't. I have to prioritize. And when you have the experience of working for someone and doing more than is expected, you are used to going that extra mile, which you have to when it's your own company.
Absolutely.
I guess it's a matter of mindset, right? A character
Yeah,
development.
you can't be afraid to work. You have to figure something that you love to do.
And your boss will know it. Just as if you're doing a little less than he or she expects you to do, he's going to know that, and you think you're fooling him. You're not fooling him. He's the boss. She's the boss for a reason. And when you do more, they may not say how wonderful you are, but they're going to know it. And when they need something special, they're going to ask you. And when they have the ability to give you something special or give someone something special, you're going to be the one to get it.
Yeah, I think the important element is, even if you are not getting rewarded at that moment, you're building up some karmic points, if you will. And very often that's where the networking comes along, where someone who used to work with you says, "I work with this guy. Oh my God, he was so great. You got to hire him."
Networking.
You know, or I have an employee now. If I could get him a better job, I would get him a better job because I can't pay him what he's worth.
Period.
You know.
Guys, do you see how amazing it is to learn from real stories, from like talking and having a deep conversation that you can actually get something out of it?
Oh, and hopefully you have.
Yeah, it's
And
real
that-
real life
Hopefully, yeah.
experiences.
And that's what we're here for. So take this moment to share with a friend and comment down below what you want to see in the future episodes.
Yeah, we want to hear your stories as well.
Exactly. We might start hiring process.
I don't know.
One thing that I forgot to mention when I was talking about my career was my internship at Rutgers, which I got through networking.
Right.
So talk to people, guys. It really works.
Absolutely.
I am still learning. I am still the student. Disclaimer here. I am still in the journey with you, who's watching there in the other side of the camera. I definitely don't have all the answers. I'm not here to teach anybody or to give a lesson to anyone, because I'm also getting educated and mentored by these amazing people.
Take us out.
Thank you so much for joining us. If you're looking for a safe community to talk about personal finance, hit the follow button, send it to a friend so we can grow this community and spread positivity, because nowadays this is very important to spread positivity on social media. Thank you so much. Make sure to like,
Comment.
And subscribe.
And to remember that this this podcast and this episode is for information and educational purposes only.
entertainment,
Entertainment.
What'd I say?
Information, education.
which is the same thing.
Education and entertainment.
Oh, education. This
Song and
just a
dance.
reminder. This podcast is for entertainment and education only.
Okay.
See you in our next episode.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.